Good stewards cherish. The shortest verse in the Bible because it teaches us Jesus is fully human. And good stewards cherish Jesus' death and resurrection because they teach us Jesus is fully divine. When my wife Jackie died, I had flashbacks. I remembered our marriage. I remembered our honeymoon. I'm an archaeology buff, so I convinced Jackie, against her will, to go to the Yucatan Peninsula so that we could see Mayan ruins. But we hadn't yet learned how to communicate. And those Mayan ruins, some of them are 100 feet tall, and the steps are very, very narrow. Both of us were afraid of heights, but we wouldn't tell each other we were afraid of heights. I remember the birth of our children. I remembered the fights we had in the middle of our marriage, and our marriage getting weaker. I remember us going every week to counseling for 3 years to build up and make beautiful our marriage. I remember the joy of our marriage after we had done that. I remembered the devastated look on her face when the doctor told her her cancer had returned. I remembered the agonized look on her face the moment she died, because she died in such pain. Why do I tell all of these things this morning? Well, I tell them to establish that I, like you, am fully human. And I want to establish our humanness because in our gospel passage, Jesus establishes his full humanity in the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus went to see his dead friend Lazarus. And the scriptures tell us when he got there, and Jesus wept. He cried. His heart was broken. We tend, I believe, to overlook the humanity of Jesus. Jesus had to have his diapers changed. He sucked at his mother's breasts. Jesus was hungry. He was thirsty. He got hot. He was cold. He had favorite foods. He had foods he didn't like nearly as much. He played. He laughed. And yes, Jesus cried, just like all of us. And Jesus wept, showing his full humanity. But this is a chock-a-block full gospel passage. There's probably 100 different topics that a priest could preach on or a deacon could preach on from this gospel passage. And one of them is it also establishes Jesus' divinity. Jesus foreshadows his crucifixion. He says, and if you listen to me, if you believe in me, even though you die, you will live forever. He's telling us, look, I came to be fully human because I don't want you ever to have an excuse not to do the right thing by saying, oh, come on, you don't understand, you're God. You're perfectly happy, always has been, always will be. No, he became one of us and became fully human. But he did die on a cross. He did on that cross forgive us our sins. And he did something absolutely extraordinary, something I believe we also overlook in our lives. He opened to us the gates of heaven. Yeah, we tend to abstractly think about someday going to heaven. But we don't fully appreciate, and can't really, until we get into heaven, what a fabulous gift that is. We just can't get our mind's eye around every day is going to be perfect. I'm going to be perfectly joyful, happy. I'm going to have pleasure, perfect pleasure. I'm going to have perfect fun all the time, forever. And it all happens to us one day because the fully human Jesus, as well as the fully divine Jesus, died on the cross to forgive us our sins. Heaven is open to us. Here's a short story I tell at a lot of the funerals I do. It's about one of my heroes, Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister during Great Britain during World War II. Winston was a cigar-smoking, gin-drinking, lots of gin for Winston, curmudgeon. But he was also a man of brilliant intellect, a man of fabulous planning abilities. When I was in London 3 years or so ago, I was really moved by the Churchill War Rooms. Winston Churchill single-handedly, in my opinion, kept Great Britain in World War II until we Americans entered the war and began turning the tide of the war. Those things are known about Winston Churchill. One of the things that's not known so much is a man of great faith. And when Winston died, he had planned his own funeral liturgy. It was held at St. Paul's Cathedral in downtown London, a centuries-old cathedral, gorgeous, sky-high ceilings, a big circular balcony at the top. I'm told that the liturgy was exquisite. After the liturgy, a benediction that was equally exquisite. And then two surprises. High up in the rafters, in that circular balcony, was a bugler. And that bugler played the haunting refrain, taps. We all know taps. Universal signal, day has ended. And when the last notes of taps went wafting through St. Paul's, a second surprise, because high up in the rafters in that circular balcony on the other side was a second bugler, and that bugler played Reveille. From heaven, Winston was sending us a faith signal. When day ends down here, taps, day is just beginning up there. Reveille. My sisters and brothers, heaven awaits us. Lent is a time for us to do what we've got to do to get our act together so that we don't miss out on heaven. And when we come up with all those excuses, why, this is just too hard, I can't do this, Jesus wants me to do that, but no, it's too hard, we've got to remember Jesus was and is fully human. He suffered all of the same struggles that we do. He suffered all of the same temptations that we do. He did it, and so can we. A great gift of our God. He became fully one of us so that he could die on a cross, forgive us our sins, and open to us the gates of heaven. My sisters and brothers, we are all called to be good stewards. And good stewards cherish the shortest verse in the Bible because it shows us Jesus is fully human. And we cherish Jesus' death and resurrection because they show us Jesus is fully divine.